Hi everyone, this is Ms.Javaid, a student at Bahia University. I am currently working in a telecom company operating in Pakistan. Today I will be talking about learning. Learning is a concept that we are all well aware of. We've been learning ever since we were born and continue to do so until we die. So what exactly is learning? By definition, learning is the acquisition of knowledge or skills through study, experience, or being taught. Take a second and write down or just think, what is learning for you? What do you think is the most important thing you have learned in your life? So learning is very much vital for any individual. But does learning and education act as a factor to someone's success? Definitely, education plays a very vital role in the success of an individual. Nelson Mandela said, "Education is the great engine of personal development. It is through education that the daughter of a peasant can become a doctor, that the son of a mine worker can become the head of the mine, that the child of a farm worker can become the president of a great nation. It is what we make out of what we have, not what we are given, that separate us from another." Researchers have seen and analyzed through various situations to understand the impact learning has on children's growth. Technology is evolving day by day, and as we see it and as we know it, every day a new change is being brought to the world. This change has actually evolved the world as we see today and changed the nature of jobs that are required in the labor market. Statistics published in World Health Organizations actually discuss that how high-skilled occupations have actually increased in developing countries. So low-skilled workers are those with jobs in sales and services and elementary occupations, whereas middle-skilled or medium-skilled workers are those who have a position that require at least a high school diploma but less than a 4-year degree. Lastly, when we talk about high-skilled workers, these can include engineers, scientists, and software developers. So when we look at the different countries that are mapped here, in Bolivia, Zambia, Uganda, and Bangladesh, high and low-skilled occupations grew but middle-skilled occupations actually fell. Whereas in Sri Lanka, Armenia, and Ecuador, high-skilled occupations grew but middle and low-skilled occupations fell. In Ethiopia, Chile, and Jordan, high and middle-skilled occupations are growing but low-skilled occupations are actually falling. The rate of technology diffusion is increasing at a higher rate than we can even imagine. Innovation is the key of today's world, and with every day there is some new product and new technology being introduced. From the year 105 to now, we as human race have evolved and increased our knowledge at a very high pace. In 105, papermaking was invented and it was used as the main medium for writing, whereas now we have so much more options to explore. But given all of these changes, the nature of the jobs that were existing earlier are no longer or will no longer be valid in the future. So this calls for everyone to actually have a change in the requirements of their education and change in the things that they're studying so they're better equipped for the future. Automation and the adoption of technology more generally makes some jobs obsolete. The demand for skills linked to home appliance repair, for example, is shrinking quickly because technology is driving down the price of appliance and improving reliability. But technology isn't all bad. At the same time, innovation is increasing new type of jobs. In fact, a large share of children entering primary school in 2018 will work in occupations that do not exist yet. Even in low and middle income countries, many people are employed in jobs that did not exist 3 decades ago. India has nearly 4 million app developers, Uganda has over 400,000 internationally certified organic farmers, and China has 100,000 data labelers. Meanwhile, many current jobs are being retooled into new forms, resulting in new and sometimes unexpected skill combinations. In 2018, a marketing professional might as well be asked to write algorithms. A physics graduate may land a job as a quantitative trader in the finance industry. Workers who bring emerging skills into relevant technical field of expertise, such as teachers who are good at web designs and who are proficient in big data analytics, are likely to be in high demand. Learning actually starts at a very early age. The architect of the brain actually is formed at a very early age of 5. It is an important stage for developing cognitive and behavioral skills. During this period, the brain's ability to learn from experience is at its highest level. In France, the mandatory school starting age will soon be lowered from 6 to 3 years. Did you know that children actually start learning at a very early stage? If they see something, they are more likely to do it. And for them to be able to start understanding language and perceiving language as a tool of communication, they can do it at a very early age of just 2 days old. A very small example for learning are building blocks. Children love to actually play with them. It actually encourages them to think creatively, and the best news is they actually help in increasing mathematical skills in children. According to a study that was conducted, it was found that there is a statistical relationship between early Lego performers among preschool and achievement in mathematics, not seen during the elementary school years but later developing at the middle and high school level. Early investments in nutrition, health, social protection, and education lay strong foundations for the future acquisition of cognitive and social behavioral skills. Quality early childhood development programs enable children to learn. Investments in nutrition, health, and stimulation in the first 1,000 days of the life actually builds stronger brains. The engagement of parents and caregivers during this phase also matters for the development of children's language. As the graph shows, the ability to learn from experience actually decreases with age. In Pakistan, the efforts of the Lady Health Worker program, which provides health services in rural areas, led to children under the 3 years age being more likely to be fully immunized in 2008 than in 2000 by 15 percentage points. In Colombia, exposure to psychological stimulations through home visits with play demonstrations significantly improved the cognitive development of children aged 12 to 24 months. Did you know, from the age of 3, socialization and more formal early learning becomes important to prepare children to succeed in primary school? A quality preschool strengthens children's executive functions such as working memory, flexible thinking, and self-control, launching them on higher learning trajectories. Poor quality early childhood development programs are associated with disappointing results in children's language development, cognitive skills, and sociability. Early childhood investments effectively produce skills that are relevant to a child's future. Learning is a cumulative skill required at an earlier stage to facilitate skills information in subsequent stages. The return to early investments are the highest of those made over the lifespan, and the advantage conferred by these investments grow over time. An additional dollar invested in quality education for childhood program yields a return of $6 to $17.16. Many women do not work because of time-consuming child-rearing responsibilities. In the United Kingdom, half of stay-at-home mothers would prefer to go back to work, only if they had access to high-quality, affordable childcare services. Early investment in such services would alleviate this constraint. In Argentina, a large-scale construction program for pre-primary school facilities in the 1990s positively affected maternal employment. In Spain, during the same period, maternal employment increased by 10% because of the availability of full-time public care for 3-year-olds. For children exposed to poverty and other adverse conditions, quality early childhood programs increase adult competence, reduce violent behavior and social inhibition, and foster growth in the subsequent generation. In Guatemala, an early childhood development nutrition program for poor families significantly increased the wages for these children in adulthood. In Jamaica, early stimulation for infants and toddlers increased the future earning by 25% equivalent to that of adults who grew up in wealthier households. Some 250 million children under the age of 5 are at the risk of not reaching their development potential in low and middle income countries because of extreme poverty. Worldwide, more than 87 million children under the age of 7 have spent their entire lives in conflict-affected areas. Because of these conditions, they suffer from extreme trauma and toxic stress, which actually impairs their brain development and skill enhancement. Only half of all the 3 to 6-year-olds have access to pre-primary education globally. In low-income countries, this share is 1/5. In 2012, North America and Western Europe spent 8.8% of the education budget on pre-primary education. In sub-Saharan Africa, the share allotted was only 0.3%. Children from poor families are the least likely to attend early childhood development programs. They would also likely benefit the most from such programs. In low and middle income countries, approximately 47% of the wealthiest families have access to early education programs, but for the poorest families, this number is 20%. Rural families are especially disadvantaged. As represented in the graph, in many countries, children from disadvantaged backgrounds are the least likely to attend childhood education programs, with the least being in Mali and the highest being in Mexico. In Indonesia, a playgroup program positively affected children's language, social behavioral, and cognitive skills. Children from disadvantaged backgrounds benefited more in both the short and the long term. In Tonga, organizing playgroups for children up to age 5 significantly improved their early grades and reading skills. Research has uncovered several concrete ways to increase take up of early childhood development investments. Integrated approaches that combine health, nutrition, and stimulation investment have also been highly effective.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. My name is A. Ali. I'm student of Bahria University and I'm working in education sector of Pakistan. Being as human beings, we started learning from our birth and we learn till our death. So learning is a lifelong process and we all know that the investment in the learning pays the best interest. So as already discussed about the learning in the early childhood, I'm going to talk about the tertiary education. Basically, tertiary education is the education beyond the high school level education and it includes the diplomas, graduate and undergraduate qualifications. Now talking about the importance of the tertiary education, why tertiary education is so important and why school level education is not enough. So due to the changing needs of the workplace, tertiary education is getting important day by day. The demands of the future labor market are changed now. Now the demand for the worker who undertake non-routine cognitive skills such as high-skilled research, complex problem-solving skills, critical thinking, advanced communication, and logical skills. So these are the skills which are most valued by the employers nowadays. And the research shows that the people with the higher problem solving skills get 10 to 20% high wage than others. The Free University of Tbilisi was established in 2007 through a non-profit organization and it became one of the top performing university. And this university is successful because of its transparent admission process and as well as competitive state financing program for individual students based on their academic performance. And this university attract hundreds of top applicants and more than 96 of its graduates find employment or enroll in further studies. Integrated technology driven economy are valuing the tertiary education day by day. The global average private return to the tertiary education is 16%, but this return is not very high for everyone because it depends upon the number of the factor that include the quality of the provider, the composition of the student population, and the availability of the job. And the return of the tertiary education ranges from 4% for the humanities to 126% for the engineering and technology. And tertiary enrollment and expenditure vary considerably by region, which we can see in the next figure. Here is the data on tertiary education expenditure for Middle East and North African countries, and this data shows the gross tertiary enrollment ratio and the percentage expenditure on the tertiary education, and this data clearly shows the variation from region to region. The changing nature of work make tertiary education attractive in three ways. Firstly, technology and integration have increased the demand for high order general cognitive skills. And secondly, tertiary education increased the demand for lifelong learning. Workers are expected to have multiple careers, not just multiple jobs over their lifetime. And thirdly, tertiary education, especially universities, becomes the most attractive in changing work of the world by serving as a platform for innovation. And even in Pakistan, we can see that now universities are associated with innovation, and we can see a lot of universities like LUMS, NURS, JIK have developed their own incubation center where the students can come and they pitch in their new ideas, business ideas, and they can work on that. In tertiary education, most of the students choose between the general education and vocational training. So, general education include the programs such as engineering or economics, while the vocational training is related to the specific occupations like nursing or airport operation. And the return to the general and vocational education are changing in unpredictable ways, and most economies continue to demand both. Now, talking about the role of technology in tertiary education. Technology plays an important role in tertiary education because it makes tertiary education more available, and it introduces the concept of distance learning. And the five largest distance learning programs are based in lower or middle income countries. Like India is the second largest consumer of massive open online courses, and China is the biggest introduced the biggest learning portal which is serving around 10 million students in 2018, while the Brazil launched the world first open online masters in business administration program in 2013. And these online programs are promising a way of delivering flexible, personalized education to a large population. But the distance learning faced some challenges, and the quality is the major challenge they are facing. And according to the recent studies, the students who took online course perform worse than the students who followed in-person instruction. And there would be a lot of reason for this. Maybe they fail on student engagement or instructor quality. Like in the current pandemic situation, we can see uh, universities are introducing the concept of distance learning in Pakistan, but they are also facing major challenges uh, due to the technology and in with their students. Tertiary education also plays an important role in building transferable social behavioral skills such as teamwork, resilience, self-confidence, negotiation skills, and self-expression. And the survey of employers of engineers in India shows that social behavior skills were ranked at or above technical qualification and credentials in terms of significance of employability of recent graduates, while the other employer surveys conducted in other countries shows that lack of social behavioral skills at, as at least as problematic as lack of technical skills. So forward looking universities are finding the way for the adult student to acquire social behavioral skills, and better teaching of social behavioral skills does require the appropriate accurate measurement, especially in context of low income and rural areas. At last we will see the role of tertiary education system as center of innovation. So their role is highly valued in this regard. Well-known examples of successful university innovation clusters are located in developed world, while the clusters are also emerging in middle low income countries. And basically there are two main factors that matter for healthy innovation ecosystem. First is to prioritize the right university for the right sector, and secondly recognize that a healthy innovation ecosystem requires an enabling environment, and governments are mostly responsible for creating an enabling environment in which innovation cluster flourished by providing local infrastructure, increasing the expenditure on research and development, connecting university with high quality researchers and private sector innovation, etc.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Abbas and I'll be discussing adult learning outside the workplace. How adult learning is different from the previously discussed two types of learning. The difference lies in the fact that adults learn differently from kids. In schools, students learn because they are placed in an environment that prods them to do so. They are placed in a classroom matched with other students who are roughly the same age and same level of expertise and expected to do nothing but learn for the majority of the time they are there. Most of this motivation is external, meaning that children go through this process to please their parents and teachers, but once they are graduate, things are different. When adults choose to learn something, it is because they see value in those things. For example, we might pick up a hobby because we find it interesting or relaxing. Or we might learn a skill that will help us advance in our careers. It's our interest and ambitions that drive learning. Adult learning programs are of different types, but particularly relevant to preparing adults for changing labor markets. Three kinds of programs are basically used, which are programs on adult literacy, skills training for wage employment, and entrepreneurship programs that are being carried out. Worldwide, there are more than 2.1 billion working age adults aging between ages between 15 to 64 have low reading proficiency. In sub-Saharan Africa, nearly 61% of workers are not proficient in reading. In Latin America and the Caribbean, this share is 44%. In India, only 24% of 18 to 37 year olds who dropped out of school before completing the primary level can read. Low quality education also may lead to poor literacy skills. In Bolivia, Ghana, and Kenya, more than 40% of 19 to 20-year-olds with an upper secondary education score below the basic literacy level, compared with only 3% in Vietnam. This is a problem given the future of the work. Functional literacy is a survival skill. The economic and social cost of adult illiteracy to developing countries is estimated at more than 5 billion US dollars a year. Reasons behind this low level of adult literacy might be economic or social constraints, low quality of basic education, or it might be both of them. A pool of unemployed adults is a political risk as well as an economic concern. The dropout rate from lower secondary general education that was recorded in the year 2014 was about 27.5% in low income countries and 13.3 and 4.8% in middle and high income countries. These are some countries that have a large share of 19 to 20-year-olds having low literacy skills despite completion of a secondary education. A few programs that were adopted by different countries in order to enhance their adult learning programs are these. Adult learning programs update the skills and retool and improve the adaptability of old workers. India's Sakshar Bharat initiative, launched in 2009, seeks to provide 70 million adults with literacy. In Ghana, adult literacy programs have yielded labor market returns of more than 66%. The Mexican National Institute of Adult Education has developed flexible modules to deliver education programs equivalent to primary or secondary education. They are intended to give out-of-school individuals a second chance. Under the World Bank's Nepal Adolescent Girls Employment Initiative, vocational trainings for women has increased employment outside of agriculture by 174%. Argentina's Entra 21 program is providing adult skills training and internships, resulting in 40% higher earnings for its participants. Kenya's Ninavisa program is offering skills training to young women living in informal settlements in Nairobi. The program has led to 14% increase in the likelihood of obtaining a job, higher earnings, and more self-confident participants. Moving on towards the drawbacks of adult learnings. There are a few pros, and whereas at the same time there are cons to this adult learning methods. Adult learning basically uh, it improves word recognition, but at the same time fail to improve actual reading comprehension. It improves basic knowledge, basic business knowledge, but can do not create employment. Vocational training for unemployed often improves short-run earnings, but not always long-run employment. Improves non-cognitive skills and job formality, but it does not increase employment, and also it leads to higher costs. So we can say that entrepreneurship programs do not basically create employment. Adult brains learn differently. Reasons for this low effectiveness is reasons behind the low effectiveness of adult programs is suboptimal designs and incorrect diagnosis. How can we now moving towards how can we design a program that can be efficient and effective in terms of providing adult learning? So there are three aspects to this. First one is better design and diagnosis. We see that systematic data collection before program design will identify the most important constraints for the target population. This information is also useful for customizing skills training. Administrative data from India's massive National Rural Employment Guarantee Act program has offered powerful insights into local labor market. Second one is better design. Design of adult learning can be improved using insights from neuroscience and behavioral economics. Practical exercises and visual aids both are effective in adult learning. Motivational tools such as financial rewards, work experience, frequent feedback, and all boost adult learning. Offering rewards increase long-term performance gains after training. Better delivery. Flexible adult learning programs to learn at convenience, proximity to training centers as a determining factor in choosing a course, and short modules delivered through mobile applications are particularly promising. Low participation in adult learning programs is due to a lot of factors. Um, it is basically due to the fact that behavioral roots are not integrated into learning process. Also, it might be because of some socioeconomic constraints, high opportunity costs in terms of lost income and lost time, decline in personal savings, significant barriers in terms of distance to training locations, and lack of childcare, and high dropout rates. Low participation can also be another factor. For example, Pakistan's Skills for Employability program has shown that 95% of the population did not enroll, whereas increasing the stipend and moving training centers to villages, 25% increase in enrollment was ensured. Combining training with cash. Successful adult learning programs can be achieved by combining training with cash, linking them to employment opportunities, on the job trainings via apprenticeships and internships. Um, Combining training with cash or capital is a direct way to boost effectiveness. For example, Cameroon, 54,000 people who participated in program that coupled training with financial assistance found employment. Combining skills training with skill certificate, referral letters, and better information about job opportunities may enhance effectiveness, especially for women. Uganda, workers with more certifiable transferable skills have higher employment rates, higher earnings, and greater labor market mobility. Incorporating soft skills or behavioral skills in training design have shown promise. Um, Teaching personal initiative, a mindset of self-starting behavior, innovation, and goal setting boosted profits of firms by 30% in 2 years after program. So, and also factory workers in India, the people are acquiring skills such as time management, effective communication, and financial management that has increased productivity. Thank you.